Hi guys, welcome back. So in today's episode, we've got another episode on the MK8 Golf R. And as we said in the last episode on the MK8 Golf R, we're going to be doing a few videos with RacingLine, and they've actually sent down pretty much every single part in their catalog down to us to get us to fit it onto our MK8 Golf R and sort of show you guys exactly what they can offer. So we've got all the parts out here in front of us. Just give you a little overview of what we've got. So obviously the biggest thing here, we've got the RacingLine R600 Intake. Really interested to get this fitted to the car because that's a customer favorite. Got the intake hose, you've got the spring kit here. Obviously we've already got the Billet EVO S on the car. So in one of the later videos, we're going to put the standard suspension back on the car and then see what these springs feel like. As well as that, we've got a bunch of the engine bay dress up parts. So we'll show you in a minute. Obviously a lot of the factory components, they've got sort of like a gross plastic cover over them, like the coolant, like the oil filters, like fuel filters, stuff like that. So we've got some nice billet engine bay dress up parts. Just here we've got all of the plug kits, like for the Haldex unit, differential, things like that. So basically it's going to pull some of the sort of like metallic material that's going around in the oil so that it doesn't continually go around in the oil and potentially reduce the lifetime of the components. And then over here, we've got probably one of the most popular products for the MK8. We've got the gas struts. So obviously these cars from the factory, they're really frustratingly, they've just got like a manual strut, like obviously the olden days, like we're back 20 years ago. And we've actually had quite a few people with MK8 Golfs who have had used them as like driving instructor cars and have had that upgrade fitted just to sort of solve that problem of people dropping it. And then as well as that, we've got a couple of the underbody braces. So a new product, which is the front subframe brace. So that mates up to the factory subframe and braces it on the back of the car. And then prop shop alignment kit, and then also the studs as well. So yeah, let's get some of these parts out of the boxes and see what they look like. Okay, so we've got all the RacingLine parts unboxed, and so we're just going to talk you through them. So starting off with the air intake first. Obviously R600 intake, you're probably already quite familiar with already. Full replacement airbox, so the factory airbox, and also has the full intake across the front of the car as well. Use this quite a bit on all the Mark 7s, all those kinds of packages. They always make quite good power. And then of course comes with the massive R600 intake filter as well. So it should be suitable for some decent gains. As well as that, got the coolant hose as well. So instead of the coolant hose going over the top of the airbox like it does on the factory item, this is going to re-rate the hose to go underneath the R600, which is going to look quite nice. And obviously going on for the airbox, you've got the intake hose as well. So this intake hose is different from the Mark 7. So this replaces the hose going from the airbox all the way down to the factory intake elbow, which RacingLine have also upgraded as well. So I think they quote it has been about 10 mil bigger. So interested to see what the standard airbox makes versus the R600 setup, and obviously we'll be doing those testings. So then moving over to the chassis upgrades. Obviously, like we said before, we've got the RacingLine Sport Springs here, so a little bit lower ride height, optimized spring rates for those factory dampers. This will work with sort of like your DCC as well as your factory like passive dampers. And a couple of new bits, quite interested to test out, see what they're like, because I haven't actually driven a car of them before. So you've got the subframe brace here. So these replace the factory sort of like steel stamped items, and then also more positively locate the mounts as well. As well as that, you've got a new sort of cross brace as well. So that will improve the rigidity quite a little bit. Also got these little sort of like collets for the subframe. So this basically allows the subframe to be mounted concentrically rather than eccentrically, because basically with the factory subframe you can mount it in multiple positions. So with that kit, basically it will just be mounted in one position and it will stay the same, because basically the subframe can shift and you might set your wheel alignment to be something, and then the subframe will shift and it will basically change and the car will feel completely different. As well as that, we've got another one of their underbody braces as well. So this is a new part that's just come out as well, so interested to get that fitted. And then also prop shafts bearing alignment kit. So this reduces the amount of movement that the prop shaft is allowed to have. So on hard launches and things like that, will keep it nice and centralized. And then the really popular rear brace as well. So this particular part fits onto the rear strut towers. So it gives you a nice bit of bracing between the factory strut towers. And if you imagine, if you're loading the car up quite heavily, the strut towers are going to flex around a little bit. So it basically makes the car feel a little bit more positive as well. So let's open up the bonnet and show you what we're going to be fitting underneath. This bonnet is quite heavy, and also you have to manually sort of like fix it to support it. So obviously we're going to be replacing this really annoying part with RacingLine gas strut. So basically just be able to open it, it's good. It'll be nice and opened. And we're going to be replacing a couple of the engine bay parts as well. So like here we've got the engine oil filter. So replacing the factory oil filter housing with a RacingLine one. So a nice billet one. So this is going to look quite nice in this engine bay. As well as that, we're pretty much replacing every single factory sort of like cap with the RacingLine billet caps as well. We're replacing the oil, replacing the washer, the coolant, the brake fluid, and also the fuel filler at the back. So when you pop open this engine bay, it's going to look a lot better with some upgraded parts, differentiate it from obviously the people that got all the stock bits, and it looks a little bit dead, to be honest. And I almost forgot to mention, we're also going to be upgrading to the RacingLine wheel studs as well. So on this particular car, obviously we've got aftermarket wheels already, and we've got some aftermarket wheel bolts on there, which are obviously fine. But we're going to be upgrading them with the RacingLine ones, so they look obviously a lot nicer than the black bolts that we've got in there. And also the nice thing about wheel studs as opposed to wheel bolts is basically that it's much easier to change the wheels on the car. So if, for example, you're at track day, you can literally just buzz the wheel studs off, or the wheel nuts rather, take the wheel off and pop it back on, rather than having to sort of like hold it with one hand and get it mounted. It's much easier to mount on there. So yeah, really excited to get these fitted as well. So the plan for the next few videos is going to be installing all the aesthetic upgrades. So like the wheel studs, going to be installing all of the like caps and all that kind of stuff on the car. Episode 2, we're going to be doing the air intake. So we're going to be fitting the standard intake to the car, and then doing some dyno tests, seeing what kind of power it makes, and then fitting the R600 by itself, seeing what kind of power it makes, then fitting the intake hose, and then fitting the intake hose only. So we'll get a few different sort of like power graphs to see what sort of difference the intake makes. For the third episode, we're going to be installing the suspension upgrades. So the first thing we want to do first is obviously install the factory like wheel and tire combo on here, and then the factory suspension on here as well. So the factory dampers, and then we're going to obviously install all like the RacingLine Sport Springs, all the underbody braces, stuff like that, and then see what the car feels like on the road. So yeah, I mean, if you've got any questions, any sort of like suggestions for the videos, anything like that, obviously let us know in the comments, but we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then please give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to watch other videos of ours that YouTube thinks you'll like, then click up here. If you'd like to watch some other videos that we have in the same playlist, then click here. And obviously if you enjoyed the video, then we really appreciate if you gave us a subscription. And then obviously you'll be updated when other videos of ours go live, and you can do that quite easily by clicking here. Hope to see you soon.